Hey everyone, today we're looking at the D007. The D007 started somewhat ironically with a clone of a Powkiddy handheld, the RGB20S. Spec-wise, it's got a 3.5 inch IPS screen at a resolution of 640 by 480 pixels. It's powered by the RK3326 chip, which is the exact chip the RGB20S had among Ambinix's RG351 range and lots of other handhelds back in 2020. We haven't seen a handheld with this chip in a while now, but we know its comfortable gameplay stops at around the PlayStation 1 catalogue. It can handle some Nintendo 64 and PSP games, but far from all the back catalogue. Interestingly, the D007 itself doesn't seem to have come with any Dreamcast ROMs included, which was a bit of a mystery as that was always pushing the limits of the RK3326 handhelds. So, straight out of the box, the D007 has a bit of an over-plastic budget feel to its design. The 3.5 inch screen's huge bezels aren't doing it any favours, nor are the non-laminated screen, Comic Sans looking D007 font in the top left and the bubble buttons. However, the D007 is comfortable in the hands thanks to its curved backhand grip design, and also features some pleasantly simple design to it, featuring the micro SD slot and volume buttons on the right side, nothing directly on top, chunky trigger buttons and mono speaker on the back, power and reset buttons on the left side, and two USB-C ports as well as the headphone jack on the underside, which you can really tell at how unusually curved the D007 is, which actually works to its ultimate advantage. Although it's not horrendous, the D007 just looks and feels like a budget handheld, with the usual rattles and cheaper look and feel attached to that. To be fair, the D007 is a budget handheld, but it still sits in at around the $50 mark, so perhaps it's unfair, but I was expecting just a little bit more when it came to the overall finish. For every neat thing like the clever LED ring lights surrounding the joysticks, you have the screen bezels that just don't sit quite completely flush against the shell and is a complete fingerprint magnet. Moving on to the controls, this is actually where the D007 started to win me over a bit. I say a bit though, because the shoulder trigger buttons are a clear downside immediately, with the L2 and R2 being easily pressed, but my fingers need to physically move to continue press the L1 and R1 buttons respectively, which is a shame. They're big and they're clicky, and to be fair, the L2 and R2 buttons do work well enough, but it's just not comfortable to play when you're switching between all four shoulder buttons quickly. In addition to this, the joysticks are low down, that they're almost in conflict with the curves of the back of the handheld, making the D007 comfortable when playing the D-pad but awkward when using the joysticks. The D-pad itself I was initially disappointed with, to be honest. It's an odd shape, being quite long and thick, with quite a restrictive turning circle to it, not made any better by the circle indent which your thumb kind of falls into. It also indents quite far into the shell, which adds to the fatigue in longer playing sessions, but in actual gameplay, although it takes a while to adapt to, it's not the worst D-pad I've ever used. It's far from my go-to choice either, but it's not actually as bad as I initially thought it would be, and it does translate well to retro gameplay, with its stiffness and turning circle actually allowing for some quite deliberate input once you're used to it. Although the bubble buttons are big and bubbly, they're not the most responsive and aren't responsive enough when button mashing, but other than that, aren't too bad all things considered. In terms of firmware, the D007 continues to be a bit of an odd one. From the prompts like volume and power settings, I'd guess it was an Android based with heavily emulation station inspired front end on top, and although it's okay, it's nothing super special either. There's no real customization options, so you're stuck with the emulation settings out of the box, and other than the ability to save and load states and remap the controls. If this is all you need, then there's not too much to miss, but it does suffer from a lack of cheats, retro achievements and configuration options in my opinion, and things like the missing Dreamcast simulation is just a bit bizarre. The annoying sound you get from navigating between systems is never going to be not annoying, and although there are a few neat things like box art for the included ROMs and the fact that the joystick LEDs only light up when they're being used, I was left wanting more from a firmware point of view. Anyway, I'll cut to some gameplay now and summarise back up at the end.
Checkpoint. 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 Checkpoint.
You lose round two. Fight.
So the D007 is ultimately a bit of a weird handheld to summarize. It's not the most flashy, but in fact the most average handheld I've reviewed in a while, with it not being anything particularly special, but not doing anything particularly horrendous either. The mono speaker, screen bezels, and odd design choice with both the hardware and software are a bit of a letdown, but for around the $50 mark, the D007 isn't too bad for a budget handheld. So that's it for now. Thanks so much for watching.